Hi, I'm Jamie Purdy.
Hi, and I'm Chris.
We'd like to tell you the story of our daughter, Alexis. Alexis was born on April 30th. All I ever wanted to be was a mom, and we were really excited to have a daughter. And everything was fine, and they brought her back to us in the room, and she stayed with us. And then that night they took her down to do some testing on her in the NICU. And Chris wanted to go with her, and I stayed in the room, and he was gone for a while. And when he came back, he said that she had had a seizure when she was down there.
I told her that Alexis had a seizure, and she says, oh, I guess that's kind of normal because some babies have seizures. So we kind of just sat there and waited for a while. And then about 30 or 40 minutes later, nothing was happening. So I went back to NICU and I asked what was going on. And they told me that she had a few more seizures, and they had taken her down to get a brain scan and figure out what was going on.
So they did the CAT scan, and they said that they came back and they said, well, it looks like there's blood in the brain. So then they said they were going to do a spinal tap, and they said, well, hopefully the blood hadn't spread to her spine. So they did the spinal tap, and that came back, and there was blood in her spinal tap. It bled out through her brain to her spine. And her whole spinal fluid was full of blood. So they came back and told us that, and then that she was continuously having seizures, and they were going to medicate her. So I called my mom. She had just left the hospital, and she came back, and Rocky came up in the middle of the night to pray for her. And then we just went to bed and slept overnight, and in the morning they called us and said that, or the doctor came down and said really there wasn't much that they could do for her. And they wanted to send her over to U of M. They asked me if I had a picture of her. And I didn't. So the nurse took one for me and gave it to me so that I had a picture of her in case she died on the way over there. So we got to Michigan, and she was in the 4th room, 4th bed, which is the worst one that you can be in. And all the doctors were around her, and they couldn't really tell us what was wrong with her, or what was the outcome, or if she was still bleeding, or if they'd have to do surgery. And they said they wanted to wait 24 hours before they did any kind of surgery or anything.
So the first night that she was at Mott's, I had some of my own alone time with her, and I felt like I should pray. So I prayed a prayer that I just felt like I had to be obedient with it. And I prayed that that I was ready to be her father here on earth, but if the Lord wanted to take her now, I was okay with that. And it wasn't, I felt like the words were not me, Chris Purdy, saying it, but it was through obedience that I was saying it. And I was saying how proud I was of her for the first bit, that she had so many people around the world praying for her, and people who hadn't prayed before in their lives were praying. And if this was her purpose here on earth to do this, that I was proud of her for doing it. And so, yeah, and I was okay with letting her go. So I just felt like the presence of God was there, and I felt coated, and I felt great, and just felt like no matter what happened, it was up to God, and I was okay with that. That night, when we said goodbye to her through the night, Jamie would say, she said, okay, no, Mommy's telling you, stop seizing. And she would. So we went home, and then we would call every couple hours, and the nurse would say, guess what, she didn't seize in 2 hours. We said, it's great. And then the next night, or a few hours later, it was again, she hadn't seized and she hadn't seized. So we got there the next day, and they had said that she had made it through the whole night without seizing. And it was great news, and everything was going great. And then, but she was having internal seizures within her brain, so they had told us that's the next step, is we got to get these internal seizures to quit.
And that night I said, Alexis, no more shaking in your brain tonight. And so then we stayed with her the whole day. We went home, we prayed for her, and people from the church were coming constantly. We had people constantly at the church praying for her and coming up to the hospital and sitting with us and bringing us food and going in there with her and just sitting with her. And we went home that day and prayed for her, and then we called back in the morning. They said they did more monitoring on her and she didn't have any more seizures. They monitored her for a full hour and she didn't have any more seizures in her brain. And then the next step was she had to eat on her own and all this stuff that she had to do, and she continuously got better and she continuously moved bed to bed, room to room, until she was in the first room, first bed, where it was time for us to take her home. And the doctors did, after they got her there, they did nothing for her but monitor her, and they said it was a true miracle, that they don't know what happened, they don't know why it happened. She was perfectly healthy when she was born, and it was a miracle that they didn't have to do anything for her, and she just got better.
Now she's lost just over a quarter of her brain, and it's gone. There's no part of that brain left in her, and she's just doing phenomenally. God just created a huge miracle, and now she's 4 and she's doing great, and we got to truly watch a miracle in front of our eyes.